Thank you for staying with us, everyone. As Nigeria marks 65 years of independence, conversations about national progress naturally turn to critical sectors and few as essential, yet often overlooked, as electricity access in our rural communities. And despite decades of development efforts, millions of Nigerians in rural areas still live without reliable power, affecting education, healthcare, small businesses, and overall quality of life. Today, we shine a spotlight on the nation's rural electrification drive, what has been achieved, what remains to be done, and how government agencies are working to close the energy access gap. Abba Liu is the Managing Director of the Rural Electrification Agency. He joins me again on this very important day. His agency is tasked with powering the empowered and unlocking the full potential of our rural communities. Mr. Liu, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on Politics Tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So it's a great day for us all as Nigerians. We're celebrating 65 years of Nigerians' independence, and hopefully one day our electricity sector also gains freedom from all of the challenges bedeviling it. So, I listened to Mr. President this morning. Clearly shows that his distrust about the situation. It says we do not have enough electricity to power our industries and homes today, or the resources to repair our deteriorating roads, build seaports, railways, and international airports comparable to the best in the world, because we failed to make the necessary investment decades ago. So to begin this conversation, Mr. Aliyu, how would you assess Nigeria's progress in rural electrification over the last 65 years?
Thank you very much for having me. The rural electrification, or addressing the electricity access challenge that is being faced by Nigeria, has tremendously recorded progress. For the first time, I would like to put it on record, this is the first government that had designed a structured means of addressing electricity access challenge in the country. Of course, we agree that the country has the highest number of people without this access. But before now, the quest to address this access was being done on an ad hoc basis. There's no any structured means of addressing it. When Mr. President came in, one of the first things he did in the power sector was the approval he granted for the distributed access through renewable energy scale-up project. The only structured means of addressing electricity access challenge in the country, targeting 17.5 million Nigerians by deploying 1,350 mini grids, and at the same time also deploying over 12 million solar home systems across the country. And to show you, after approving that project and getting it designed, already implementation had started. To date, we have signed grant agreement with developers, and we are currently deploying 254 isolated mini grids across the country, in different parts of the country. We are also working on deploying 42 interconnected mini grids that will inject 188.4 megawatts of electricity in different parts of the country. We also have signed a grant agreement with companies that are deploying solar home systems, about 7 of them, with a total capacity quantity of over 1 million, which is much more than what we deployed under the previous program. So you can see the way this present government is taking this challenge of addressing the electricity, providing the financing. We have the $750 million World Bank financing that is targeting the 17.5 million Nigerians. And the Honorable Minister recently was in Japan, where he concluded an arrangement for additional co-financing of 190 million that would target additional 1,830,000 Nigerians to be provided with electricity using isolated and interconnected mini grids. We are also in discussion with French development for additional funding of about 180 million euro, also that would be a co-financing for the DES project. Even beyond that, the federal government also in the year in, year out budget, this present government had budgeted funding for rural electrification, the biggest funding ever in the history of rural electrification agency for deployment of this renewable infrastructure to address the electricity access challenge. It is on record that in 2025 budget, the federal government provided 100 billion naira under the
I do
National
apologize
Public
that
Sector
I may have to come in here. I don't want to talk about funding now because I expect that we spend some minutes on that, because the feedback I got was that some Nigerians are still confused about funding and how you intend to carry out all of these initiatives and goals from the last conversation we had. But I wonder also, because I tried, when we started this conversation, I tried to describe your mandate to Nigerians. I know I tried, but I don't want to score myself. But for Nigerians to hear from the horse's mouth, I want you to describe the mandate and your vision for the agency, and how has that mission evolved under your leadership?
Yeah, so the mandate of Rural Electrification Agency is very clear. We are created to address the electricity access challenge, to provide electricity for communities that do not have this access completely. And we have the second level of the mandate. This is to provide reliability for communities that do not have reliability. These are the communities that enjoy less than 4 hours of electricity. So in those areas also we intervene and provide this reliability. Then the third access mandate also, it's for us to intervene in some critical sectors of the Nigerian economy. Basically, we intervene in agriculture to ensure that we provide electricity that will enhance production of agricultural produce and reduce post-harvest losses. We also intervene in education, critical government institutions that within these areas that maybe there's lack of reliability or lack of access. We intervene and provide them also with this. The same thing in the health sector. So these are the key mandate of Rural Electrification Agency.
Right.
And so our strategy has always been very clear. Since we have this large number of people without electricity access, and with this our mandate, we now reorient the entire strategy of Rural Electrification Agency to now leverage on this large number of people without access to even position Nigeria to be the renewable hub of Africa. We are not seeing this 80-something million people that are without access as a challenge. We are seeing them as an opportunity, as a market to provide the electricity, to create localization, to create manufacturing, to create jobs, to train. And that is why Rural Electrification Agency came up with 6 clear strategies. One is the funding drive. That is because for us to address the access or create the reliability, we must have adequate funding to be able to do that. But also the second level of it is to use the funding to incentivize the private sector, because the government alone cannot address this. So why shouldn't we invite the private sector to leverage on our funding to create a blended financing that would enable us to address the access challenge and expand the funding portfolio that we have? So that's the first strategy. The second strategy is to design operational framework. So to enable us be focused in different segments of our intervention, we design different programs. For example, we have the Energizing Education program that is focusing on education. We have the Energizing Agriculture. We have the Africa Mini Grid. We have the National Public Solarization Initiative. So we design different programs to help us target specific number of intervention to be able to make sure that we are touching all segments of the Nigerian sector and the economy and the state. The third is also to make sure that we developed pipeline of talent, youth that are trained in renewable energy, for us to make sure that we are using this opportunity to create job opportunities. And we are currently implementing different programs. We have the Next Geners, about 131 youth that we just trained with the support of United Nations Development Program that have all been employed. We are also implementing the STEM program where we train in the initial level about 150 female youth and in 1,500 in all the universities that we deployed our infrastructure. The third strategy is sustainability, because one of the challenges of rural electrification or renewable project is that all the equipment have lifespan. So we plan with the end in mind, making sure that at the time the lifespan of this equipment come to an end, we have a framework that would ensure we put new equipment, the batteries, the inverters, the panels to continue to provide that service. The fifth strategy is the localization of manufacturing. We can't continue to import just like the Nigeria First policy of Mr. President, to continue to import the panels. Nigeria last year imported over 1.5 gigawatts of PV panels into the country. So we want to reverse that. We want to reverse the importation. We want to domesticate manufacturing and localization, and that is something that we are already doing. Before the coming of the Mr. President, with the capacity, the PV panel capacity manufacturing of Nigeria is just 120 megawatts, but currently we have a capacity generation of 650 megawatts and a pipeline of new project of over 3 gigawatts that is coming. On the 14th and 15th, the Honorable Minister is convening the first renewable summit that is taking place in Nigeria, where additional deals of over $1 billion, companies that have already started manufacturing, will be signed. The last strategy is the one to do with ensuring that we have a framework that incentivize the private sector. So that is why we created the RESCO, Renewable Energy Service Company, a portfolio of private sector, Nigerian private sector companies that we have incentivized to get debt or equity to take the public funding that we have to be able to also deploy this infrastructure and manage it across the country.
Mr. Aliyu,
so
isn't that the same?
That we are currently implementing.
Right. It sounds very good, but of course, you know, implementation is always a challenge. But this last strategy, isn't that the same with the second strategy, where you said you're using funding to incentivize the private sector? What's the difference?
Yeah, so from the funding strategy that we are currently implementing, like I said, that we are very clear that we know the government cannot address this challenge alone. We have to have the private sector funding. So what we are doing is all the funding that we have, rather than to just be issuing contracts, we say, now, let's also use the funding that we have to catalyze additional private sector funding so that we will be able to have more funds to deploy this infrastructure. And I give you an example. The $750 million that we have, we are using it to incentivize additional 1.1 billion private sector funding. So rather than just using 750 to deploy this infrastructure, we will now have the opportunity to use 1.850 billion to deploy this infrastructure to provide the 17.5 million Nigerians with the electricity access. The same thing with the funding that we are expecting from JICA and the FD, the French Development Agency. It will all be used to catalyze private sector. Even the 100 billion that Rural Electrification Agency that has secured under the 2025 budget, that 100 billion is to be used for the incentivize as a means of getting private sector funding of about 500 billion. In future, we want to make Rural Electrification Agency as an agency that will continue to deploy infrastructure without even recourse to the country's balance sheet or public funding.
Right. So I hear that you're expecting some funding from the World Bank. How true is that?
Yes, so the $750 million that we have secured is from the World Bank. That is the first thing that Mr. President approved for us. But even now we are in further discussion with the World Bank, because we now also believe that for us to address the entire challenge of electricity, there is need to focus on the distribution network. And we are now designing with the World Bank a new framework approved by Honorable Minister for intervention in the distribution network. And very soon we'll come up with that framework. Also, all this is the funding that we secured from the World Bank.
All right, so since you took over as Managing Director, to our first conversation and our last conversation, and now, what percentage of rural Nigeria currently has access to reliable electricity? And I'm also wondering, Mr. Aliyu, how do you measure access? Is it just availability or also affordability and reliability? How do you do that?
So it's both. It's creating access, it's creating reliability, it's also making sure that it's affordable. The reason why we use renewable energy is because of ensuring reliability and affordability. So I give you a typical example. Most of the rural areas, their consumption level is very low. It's not much. So why should the government not adopt the most economically viable means of providing this electricity? If I'm to build 1 kilometer of transmission network, it will cost public funds of about $1 million US. And why should you build this long transmission network and distribution network and transformer to provide a community that maybe the offtake is less than 1 megawatt? So the essence, the strategic essence of the approach we are adopting is to ensure that we are using the most least cost or the most efficient way of providing electricity in this community. So we go to this community, we deploy the generation plant, we build distribution network, we do the metering, we put the SCADA, the data system, and we provide them with this electricity, rather than we have to extend the grid or make them to rely on the grid. So that is the essence of that. And by doing that, one, we ensured reliability, because during the day they use the panels to get their electricity. During the night we deploy batteries. The batteries provide them with the electricity. And secondly is because renewable energy is cheaper. The cost, it's not contingent upon the cost of gas. Once we deploy this infrastructure, what it requires is just operation and maintenance costs. So normally the tariff tends to be a bit lower in some communities. Then the reliability is the fact that this distribution, generation distribution, is all within one particular community. And that makes it very easy to provide them with this electricity. To even show you the reliability level now, we are now working with the distribution companies to deploy interconnected mini grids, which is our own way of supporting the DISCO to create reliability for those communities that enjoy less than 4 hours. And like I told you, currently we are working in deploying 42 interconnected mini grids that will inject 188.4 megawatt of electricity into the grid. This is ensuring this reliability for even the grid, not even the communities that are isolated.
So if at 65 years old, we're still talking about lack of electricity in Africa's most populous nation, it means there's a fundamental challenge, and I'm sure you agree with me. And that was why I wanted you to assess Nigeria's progress in rural electrification over the last 65 years. And I wanted you to do that because you were head of the project management unit at the Nigeria Electrification Project, General Manager of Corporate Services, Projects and Research, and Deputy General Manager at Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading PLC. So from these experiences, Mr. Aliyu, what are the biggest challenges facing rural electrification in Nigeria today? Is it funding? Is it infrastructure, policy, or local resistance? What exactly were the challenges, or still the challenges today?
To me, I haven't seen it on. I've been working in the sector for quite some time. This is, I think, like 12 or 13 years that I've been in the sector. I think to me, it's leadership. And that is why I told you in the first 65 years, I agree, we shouldn't be speaking about access or reliability at this level. But previously, there was never any concrete leadership to address this challenge. This is the first time that we are having that. And I told you the current one program that we are implementing, the DES project, is the biggest publicly funded renewable energy in the entire world. And this is just to show you as in the audacity of Mr. President. Most of the projects that is being implemented under his leadership are audacious projects that are big, that are designed to address the challenge once and for all, so that we move to another challenge. And that is why this DES project was designed and funding was provided. This is the first time that we said, let's pick 17.5 million under just one project to provide them with electricity in just 3 years. This is the first time, and this is really a commendable thing that we have seen from the Honorable Minister and Mr. President in that regard. And it's reality. The numbers are there. We are, like I said, we are deploying 42 interconnected mini-grids. We signed grant agreement for 254 isolated mini-grids that we are deploying. We have deployed mini-grids in 15 institutions. 12 megawatts in just one institution. And all these institutions are there and enjoying the electricity. We have deployed containerized mini-grids in hundreds hospital, different health institutions across the country. And it's there, it's working. People can go and verify. So leadership is what has not been there before. And this is time we are getting the leadership, we are getting the drive, the direction, and the support. Even if there is funding, which in the last 65 years, there must have been funding. But without the leadership and the support, it wouldn't have been. That is why we are still
even if there was leadership and support,
Mr.
Aliyu, even if there was leadership and support, yes, it was alleged that some persons stole money meant for some of this infrastructural projects. Am I correct?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But the leadership is what makes us to now change the entire framework. Before, even if there is funding for real electrification agency, it's just to be used to issue contracts, give different contracts, and that is it. But now we are saying that we can't continue to do that. When we have the funding, we want to dilute it. We want to bring private sector and we want to incentivize the private sector to go and do it. So that change of approach changed the entire dynamics and changed everything. So even with the funding, without the leadership, that wouldn't have been done. And we see also the audacity to make sure that the funding comes in large chunks to give comfort to the private sector that we are in here from the government side to support it for a long run and to address the electricity access challenge.
Yeah, because you have asked Nigerians to go and verify. That was why I asked you the last question about the